Today on Time About the Movies, we're kicking off the 2011 holiday season of blockbuster movies, and we've got two big ones this weekend. Ben Stiller and Eddie Murphy heading up an ensemble cast in the heist comedy Tower Heist, and Harold and Kumar are back for the holiday season with not just any kind of Christmas, a very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas. Two films we'll take a look at today, November 4th, 2011. This is Time About the Movies.
Gotta use your fingers and your financial black. You married?
No, I ain't married. I'm still
Tower Heist rated PG.
Slow it down, Eddie. You didn't see the living style she had to deal with in Precious. Just saying. That's of course Gabourey Sidibe, by the way, from Precious, based on the novel Pushed by Sapphire. But with all that said, welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. And today we are taking a look at the two new releases of November 4th, 2011. We're starting off with, of course, the biggest of the two, Tower Heist. In this film, you have employees of an exclusive apartment building who lose their pensions in a Ponzi scheme of a Wall Street businessman played by Alan Alda, and enlist the aid of a criminal played by Eddie Murphy, a bankrupt businessman and an immigrant mate, to break into his apartment and steal back their money while avoiding the FBI agents in charge of the case. And, this is a movie where, a lot of it should work, and it does, and yet sometimes it doesn't quite work at the same time. It's a very confusing thing, but yeah, it's weird because the cast overall is great. Ben Stiller, Eddie Murphy, Casey Affleck, Michael Pena, Gabourey Sidibe, Téa Leoni, Matthew Broderick, Alan Alda. I mean, just a stacked cast in this movie. And they do a great job with the material that they're given. And the relationships between all the characters overall are very nicely done. The action sequences are also pretty good, too. It's probably the best movie that Brett Ratner has directed since Red Dragon. I mean, but at the same time, though, there is a lot of comedy in this movie that really does fall flat, and most of it is really not that funny. There are some jokes in here that do work sometimes, but most of the time, not really. And for a film like this, we've got Eddie Murphy in here, and I'll get to him in just a second because he's really that good in the film. You expect so much more in terms of better comedy than just... This is more on comedy on a sitcom level, like if you're watching this on CBS or something like that. But with Eddie Murphy in particular, though, he is fantastic in this movie. This is a return to form for him after so many years of just really bad comedies. Norbit, Meet Dave, Imagine That. Like, this is him returning to his Beverly Hills Cop days. I mean, he's the one thing you take away from this movie, and he just knocks it out of the park in this movie. This is one of his best performances overall. I like this better than Dreamgirls, even though Dreamgirls I thought was a great movie and all. Dreamgirls was basically Eddie Murphy being Eddie Murphy. He wasn't really asking me to do anything different in here, but then again, hey, Morgan Freeman and George Clooney have been doing that for the same years now, and we've loved them for that. I mean, I thought Matthew Broderick and Gabourey Sidibe were also really good, too. Alan Alda's doing a good little turn as the antagonist in here. But then there's the rest of the cast in here. Most of the rest of the cast is kind of bland and mediocre at best. Ben Stiller and Casey Affleck in particular. Like, still, I can let it slide because he's basically doing the same shtick he does in Meet the Parents movies that makes him kind of likable, but also makes him kind of a douchebag at the same time. And I felt like he wasn't... But with Casey Affleck, he really did not feel like he wanted to be in this movie. Like, he really did feel like he was just there to cash a paycheck, and it felt like he wasn't giving his all like he did in movies where he actually did show his acting talents in Assassination of Jesse James and Gone Baby Gone. It doesn't also help that the story is very predictable, too. Like, you can literally predict everything that's going to happen all the way to the end of the movie. You can predict how the heist is going to go. You can predict how the bad guy of the movie is going to eventually figure out what is his way into here and kind of screw him over in the end. Like, this is stuff we've seen done before, and there's not one point in here where I was surprised by what was going on screen at all. And, getting back to Eddie Murphy, who really was great in this, and basically, he was given, because of this movie and the hype he was getting behind it, he was going to host the Academy Awards, which was going to be produced by Brett Ratner that year. But then, Brett Ratner had to open his fucking mouth. So what had basically happened was that Brett Ratner was made the co-producer of the Academy Awards, and Eddie Murphy was going to host the Oscars, And, there was comments to Howard Stern during an interview promoting Tower Heist that from Brett Ratner saying rehearsals are for fags, and disparaging remarks about actress Olivia Munn. And so Ratner basically resigned from his co-producing duties, and basically he took Eddie Murphy with him. I mean, I really do feel like Eddie Murphy was forced out of it because of Brett Ratner, and because he was probably told, hey, don't fuck with the movie's success, man. And sure enough, Eddie Murphy dropped out, and then they replaced him with Billy Crystal. And Billy Crystal's a great Oscar host, but Eddie Murphy hosting the Oscars would have been incredible. It would have been a revival of his career at that point, if you really give him to the next level. But sadly, it wasn't the case, because instead of hosting the Oscars around that time, Paramount decided to screw him over again by releasing another one of his god-awful movies with 1,000 words, which we'll get to that in March of 2012. But missed opportunity for Eddie Murphy to essentially reinvigorate his career by hosting the Oscars that year. But on top of that, there was also another controversy with the film, not really related to the film itself, but how Universal was going to put the movie out. Not but a month before the movie came out, Universal had announced a plan that they were going to put this movie out on home video through the Comcast Video On Demand service 3 weeks after its theatrical release for a rental cost of $59.99. It was supposed to be announced as kind of a test case, but then movie theaters basically saw this as seeing their ticket sales going away for them. Cinemark threatened to not show the film, and so after that, and also Galaxy, Regency Theaters, all these different theater houses, they all basically came in and said, you do this, and we're not putting this movie in theaters. Sorry. And Universal basically said, okay, we're not going to do that. And they never did it again. It was never something that became the norm almost 15 years later, and yeah, it became the norm 15 years later for a movie to only be in theaters for a month. So yeah, Tower Heist was basically just too early for Universal was basically too early for Tower Heist to do that. But nowadays they'll just do it anyway. I mean, hell, Warner Brothers puts their movies out on Blu-ray less than 2 months after the movie's out in theaters. I mean, I just did a thing today talking about how Disney announces their titles, and they don't even wait a couple months before they announce the titles in general. They basically just say, we're going to put these out, and they're going to be coming out 2 weeks from now. So, yeah, start saving now, because, especially with steelbooks, because, steelbooks will always be around, and steelbooks basically mean that, if you don't get the steelbooks now, then you're never going to get them, because they sell out quickly. But I'm just going off on a tirade right now, because I'm sorry. They just announced the Tron steelbooks this week, and I want to get those, but they're really hard to come by because they get sold out so immediately. And every time that someone says, oh, they're back up again, you go to the website, it's just like, nope, sold out. Like, makes no sense. But anyway, I'm just going off on a tangent here. But back to Tower Heist, just kind of wrapping it up here. I like this movie. It's kind of an enjoyable movie in the tradition of the Rush Hour films. Nothing great, but nothing bad either. It has a lot of problems, but for the most part, it's an enjoyable movie. It's a movie that is somewhere in the middle of the films of the year. It's not one of the best, not one of the worst, just a good movie. Good film overall, so take that for what you will. So with that said, let's go ahead and wrap this up by taking a look at the last one we have here, a very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas in 3D. Yes, I'm going to keep doing that with every 3D movie. Don't judge me.
A very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas in 3D.
Why don't you take your sweater off? For a massage. Just a couple girlfriends.
Okay. Get off of me! Oh, I thought you were
I
gay.
am gay. Gay for that.
Against the menses.
I mean, just that trailer alone just shows you more effort went into making this a good sequel than Escape from Guantanamo Bay did. And yeah, after watching Escape from Guantanamo Bay recently, that film was just a mess of a movie. But this takes Harold and Kumar back on track to what it should be. And like I said, I kind of already did a review for this for Christmas in July. So if you want to go check out my full thoughts on that, please go ahead and check out the link in the corner as well as the description below. But if you want a quick sum up of my thoughts on this, 6 years have elapsed since their last adventure, leaving Harold and Kumar, once again played by John Cho and Cal Penn, estranged from one another with very different families, friends, and lives. But when Kumar arrives on Harold's doorstep during the holiday season with a mysterious package in hand, he accidentally burns down his father-in-law's beloved Christmas tree, and you do not want to mess with his father-in-law because he's played by Danny Trejo. So yeah, to fix the problem, Harold and Kumar embark on a mission through New York City to find the perfect Christmas tree, once again stumbling into trouble at every single turn, including killing Santa Claus, giving a baby the smell of weed, and taking some kind of mysterious liquid at a party that makes him go clay-mated. And of course, you got to throw in your Neil Patrick Harris. I love the fact that you could tell that's the Green Band trailer because of how pixelated the ladies' bras are. When in the movie they're literally naked, like it's just they're not even trying to hide it. But yeah, like I said, the first Harold and Kumar movie was a great film. The second one was just a clustered mess of a movie where they went too big, go big or go home, and they should have just went home because, man, that movie was completely a disaster on so many levels. But this takes it back on track. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of misses, hit and miss moments in this film, but there are more hits than misses in this particular case of the film. The 3D overall is just so well done. The 3D overall is fantastic to look at. It reminds me a lot of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which wasn't released in 3D, but it probably should have. The comedy overall does work well here. The raunchy jokes are used very nicely, and it's nicely paced, and it's not a long movie at all. And again, Neil Patrick Harris, man. Like, Neil Patrick Harris is one of the great entertainers we have, and this movie proves how great he is, because this is just right after he came out of the closet, and so this movie just says we're going to have the time of our lives, using that as an element to our story, his character in this movie, and it plays in a lot of hilarious moments in there. You see a little bit in the trailer there, but trust me when I tell you, that's the smallest, that's the tamest compared to what he actually does in this movie. But I mean, the guy really does have it all, man. He shines in here. When he's on screen, the movie just takes off to another level. With that said, though, the special effects do seem very fake and poorly done, and the effects are kind of on the level of something like a G.I. Joe or X-Men First Class. They do look very fake at times, but at the same time, though, you kind of are in along for the ride. It does manage to provide both a compelling and funny look at the spirit of Christmas and the purpose of friendship, and also dealing with growing up and dealing with becoming a parent. These guys are evolving. They are maturing, which is more you can say for a lot of different movies in particular, where you have a lot of different sequels where you have people that are growing up and that are getting older, but they still act the same age. The Entourage movie for a prime example of that. But here, this actually does mature the characters, and it still is very funny. It's a really funny, really solid film, and it does a really good job at hammering Christmas into the storyline without feeling like it's being forced in on you. And if there's any new holiday movie that comes out this year that I think is going to get you excited for the holidays, or at least that was back then when I reviewed this for the first time, it's definitely this movie. This is a film that is so well done, so well put together. I love it. A very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas. Definitely check it out this Christmas for yourself. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, not a very good week for movies for the second week of November. We have the latest film from Tarsem Singh, Immortals, and if you've seen my thoughts on some of his other movies, you'll know that I am not the biggest fan of his work, and Immortals is definitely an example of a film that could have been something interesting, but it just turns into another bad 300 knockoff. But it's a classic compared to Adam Sandler's biggest mistake, not only his biggest FU movie of the year, but maybe the worst thing he's ever done in his career, and that's saying a lot. Jack and Jill, a movie that people, when they first heard about it on South Park, they thought it was a joke. They thought there was no way this movie could actually be real. Well, it was real. It came out, and it's pretty bad. We'll take a look at that, and we'll try to get some good stuff out of this weekend. Clint Eastwood has a new film with Leonardo DiCaprio starring as J. Edgar Hoover in J. Edgar, from the writer of Milk as well. So 3 films to take a look at. Won't be a fun week overall, but hey, we'll try to get at least one good movie out of this week, but certainly will not be the first 2 movies. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the last episode we did. With all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.